My name is Noah Heisman. I'm author, lawyer, and a co-owner of a gym here in Austin, Texas called Squat Frontier Fitness. And I fundamentally believe that unexpressed creativity is the most corrosive and destructive force at work in the world. It's not that hard for me to see how we got here. We have what I call modern day sirens everywhere around us. We got the phones in our pockets, TVs, politicized news. Everywhere around us, there are things calling us away from ourselves, alienating us from ourselves, walking us out to the edge and luring us into the deep end. All while something deep down is scratching at us. It's an itch in the back of our head, and we can't exactly place it. I believe that itch is a call to create. This video is about following the call to create and breaking the cycle of consumption that is the default mode in modern day life. My case starts in the beginning. The first thing we learn in Genesis about the God of the Bible is that he's an artist. He's a creator. The first 5 days he spends creating the animals, the birds, the bees, the seas, the skies, separating the light from the darkness. On the 6th day he creates man, and he stamps them with what we call the imago Dei, the image of God. The implication being our ancestors arrived here on earth with a code, and that code was a call to create, to participate in the divine logos, in the proliferation of art. One of my favorite authors, J.R.R. Tolkien, knew and understood this. He talked about this idea of subcreation, which is, as children of the Creator, we are called to create in his likeness, to participate in this project of making beautiful things and bringing them into the world. Because by doing so, what we are doing is offering a window into eternity. It is like showing a place to which we belong, but we cannot yet enter. And this isn't just a biblical idea, it's a classical one too. The Greeks had the daemon, which they thought was assigned to us at birth. The Romans had their own version, the genie. Socrates had his oracle. And all of it pointed to this idea that we have something assigned to us at birth that we ought to live aligned with. Socrates said that the goal of life was to live in such a way that no part of our soul objected to it. To defy the daemon or the genie was to make that spirit malevolent. It was to grow sick and diseased from within. The thesis goes something like this: the unexpressed or misaligned soul becomes a restless soul. A restless soul becomes an anxious mind, and an anxious mind becomes a diseased body. We see what the Greeks are talking about here in their word for happiness, which is eudaimonia, of the spirit, aligned with the spirit. That is how you flourish and experience happiness, to live aligned with the spirit, and the spirit is asking to be expressed. The renowned psychologist Abraham Maslow puts it this way: what you can be, you must be. The writer must write, the painter must paint, the dancer must dance, and the builder must build. Because if you plan to be anything less than you can be, or anything other than you can be, then you deliberately plan to be deeply unhappy the rest of your life. Now, don't get me wrong, the modern machine of life makes a creative life very difficult. Our on-demand society demands immediacy. If nature abhors a vacuum, then modern life abhors stillness. Every part of our education wants to make us into productive parts of an economic machine, not creative beings. But there is a Gnostic gospel of Thomas saying, if you bring forth what is within you, it will save you. But if you do not bring forth what is within you, it will destroy you. I believe this to be true because I lived it. As I grew up, all of the creativity in me was squeezed out to the periphery, to the edges of my life. I went to law school and then into a big law firm in Minneapolis where I was working long days and often nights. My days consisted of waking up, working out, working, eating, sleeping, and repeating. Nothing about what I was doing on a day-to-day basis involved expressing any creative of my spirit. Originally, I thought that part of me was gone, but I realized it was just living on in exile, like something I had abandoned in the back of my mind that wouldn't go away. But like the idea of the Roman genie assigned at birth that grows malevolent when it's unexpressed, that piece of me would exact its vengeance. 4 years into my career as a lawyer, I suffered my first panic attack. I'll never forget that feeling, my heart racing, not able to move, laying on the couch, staring at the ceiling for at least an hour. I remember calling my brother because I didn't know what had happened to me. I told him about it. He said, "That's a panic attack." It was then that I realized my unexpressed creativity was killing me, that I couldn't afford not to write, that I had a couple options: write or live a life I was deeply unhappy with. So I started writing like my life depended on it, because it did, and it still does.
There's a bakery here that does the most.
It's not immediately obvious to people what the connection is between writing and working out. But for me, it's a large reason why I chose the name Iron and Ink for my publishing brand. I think that the soul's fullest expression comes as a result of chasing excellence in the disciplines of the mind and the body and the spirit. For me, the same self-discovery that happens when you're stretching to find the right words to put on the page is what's happening physically when you're pushing yourself in the gym. One of my favorite historical artists is the Renaissance sculptor and painter Michelangelo, who's famous for his David. He took a block of stone that nobody else would work on, and he turned it into the masterpiece we know and see and love. He's famous for approaching every block of marble as if an angel was inside, and his work was to set it free, to carve away the excess to reveal the core. I think that great joy awaits anyone in this life who can bring that Michelangelo mentality to what their soul calls them to pursue. I firmly believe that the soul's dream is the life's purpose. Each of us has something inside us that wants to come out, and our job is to let it flow freely, to carve away the access and make space for what's to arrive. This is why how we spend our days matters so much. What we work on works on us. As we craft, we are crafted. As we sculpt, we are sculpted. In working on things and making masterpieces that call to our spirit, we make ourself our finest masterpiece. This is the Michelangelo mentality. That, to me, is the secret of a life well lived. Whether it's a book or a business or music or painting, whatever it is, doesn't matter. All that matters is you show up every single day and pour every ounce of your spirit into the beauty that wants to come out of you. It's long obedience in the same direction. Most of the time, you're going to show up and the first few iterations are going to be disorganized and they're not going to make sense. Your job isn't to make it perfect the first go around, it's to keep showing up, to delete what isn't fit for that purpose and continue to refine it until you can stand back and be proud of what came out of you. You do that the next day and the next day and the next, and soon something starts to emerge. Not because you are a genius, but because you followed the genius. It emerges across the long arc of every refusal to stop chiseling. We are both the marble and the sculptor, and who we could be sleeps inside a messy stone, waiting to be revealed by we who hold the mallet. To summarize a quote by C.S. Lewis, with every choice we make, we are turning ourselves into something. If we know this, if we remember this, and we think of ourselves as both the marble and the sculptor, what we understand is the only question is who we are turning ourselves into. I think a good thing to aim at is beauty, not purely in the aesthetic sense, but in the ancient sense. Beauty as an embodiment of truth and goodness. Rilke has this statement where he says, to hearken and to hammer. It's this idea of orienting yourself to the transcendent, to the divine, and then trying as much as possible to be a bridge between that and this. It's a bet and a belief in Dostoevsky's statement that beauty will save the world. So my books are an answer to this existential question. How do I make the most beautiful things that I can imagine and trust that I'm making myself beautiful in the process? That's what I'm trying to do. So after my panic attack, I went on a search to try to find the thing that would save me, would help me come back alive. In my case, it started to come after a few conversations with my mom when I asked her what are the things that she used to find me doing, the things that she used to see me loving before the world told me what I was supposed to become, what things were productive and what things weren't. After those conversations, I decided to start writing regularly. After moving to Austin 5 years ago, I started writing regularly and declared myself to be on a mission to write a book a year till the day I died. It's the best decision I ever made. As I made writing a regular part of my life, something amazing happened. My base levels of anxiety decreased significantly. Over time, the overthinking brain that I thought was my biggest curse became my biggest gift. Now, sometimes I'll just be sitting at my desk with the morning sun pouring through the window, and tears of joy will come. I choose to see those as nods from above that I'm right where I'm supposed to be, doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. Fast forward to today, and I've self-published 3 books: an introduction to philosophy, an introduction to hero mythology, and a book called The Tao Beyond Time. I've got a 4th on the way, the first in a 3-part series reimagining the myth of Percival, who is the Grail Knight. I'm calling the series The Apprentice of Avalon. I've always loved Arthur and King Arthur legends. Growing up, The Sword and the Stone was my favorite Disney movie. When I first started thinking about what my 4th book was going to be, I thought it was going to be a story about King Arthur growing up, much like T.H. White's Once and Future King. But when I studied the story of Percival within the Grail legends as part of writing my 2nd book, the story stuck with me. I couldn't shake it. I wrote my 3rd book, The Tao Beyond Time, and still Percival stuck around. I became convinced that his story was a story whose time has come again. At its core, the story of Percival is about a naive boy who grows up far from the courts of Camelot, growing to become the Grail Knight who revitalizes a wasteland. Archetypally, it's a story of the fool who becomes the savior. The one who is humble and asks questions and serves is the one who redeems a world that has forgotten its purpose. In a nihilistic age filled with cynicism that dismisses the true, good, and beautiful, Percival invites us to see with fresh eyes. He teaches us to prefer being over seeming. He teaches us that we can revive worthy things with devotion and humility. He teaches us that the key to fulfillment is using our greatest gifts in service of the world. The first book is set to come out in January, and I've already started writing the 2nd. After that, I'll write the 3rd, and after that, I'll write some other story. But at this point in my life, I feel very grateful and lucky to have found a thing where I can show up and the work is the win. It sounds strange to say, but I could write 40 books over the next 40 years and never become a bestseller and still consider it a success, because this act of producing books, of writing, of showing up daily isn't about the result. It isn't about what it can gain me. The process itself has done more to improve my life than anything I could have ever done. I think this is what I hope everybody finds. Not necessarily writing, but something that they can pour into as an end in itself, not as a means to some other end. Something that they can do day in and day out, that they would do day in and day out, even if they couldn't show anybody, even if it got no likes or purchases or subscriptions or views, but something that just was necessary to the fulfillment and expression of their spirit. Neglect not the gift that is within you, says Timothy 4:14. Persevere in them, and by doing so, you'll save not only yourself, but those who hear you. In Self-Reliance, Emerson says that man should learn to watch that gleam of light which flashes from within. He tells us that each of us stands in a divine ray that will fall on us and only us in all of time. It is our job to testify to that beauty which only we can see, to bring out which only we can bring out, to produce what only we can produce. That is the journey and quest of our life. To hold in what wants to come out of us is to deny a glimpse of God that can only be seen in us and through us. It's almost like the universe buries these strange jewels inside each of us and then steps back and watches to see if we'll reveal them. There is a unique, one-of-a-kind being inside of us, an energy, a quickening, a vitality that desperately wants to be made known. It's not our business to ask how good it is, how valuable it is, how it compares to other expressions. It's only our business to bring it forth. Kurt Vonnegut has this quote: "Practice any art, music, singing, dancing, acting, drawing, painting, sculpting, poetry, fiction, essays, no matter how well or badly, not to get money or fame, but to experience becoming, to find out what's inside you, to make your soul grow. You don't have to be a writer, but you do have to create something. Maybe you make furniture, or you cook, or you draw, or you garden, or you make music, or you build businesses. I don't care what it is. All I care about is that you do it, and you try to make it as beautiful as you can."